Okay. All right. Well, I am surprised that we didn't have more people, honestly, turn out. When we had the first sessions, I think we had close to 25, 30 in each one. But I did follow up with all the people on the original list, and a lot of people weren't able to actually start it because they realized that it's 3 weeks. It's not like something that you do over the weekend, and it's really, I mean, as Kathy can vouch for it, and I can too, and I've had some other people make comments that you really have to be pretty dedicated. It depends on what you want to get out of it, but 3 weeks is changing around your diet and whatnot. I did have someone that I wanted to just read to you what she had said, one of the ladies that followed it pretty strictly and had some great results. She said she wasn't able to come tonight. I want to thank you for changing my life. Your detox workshop showed me a new way to eat and read labels. I am now hooked on the concept of eating organic, non-dairy, non-soy, etc. I feel great. I've lost 7 pounds. My joints still ache a little, but nothing like they used to. I look forward to more of your workshops and new ideas. I lost 6 in the first week and a half. Did you really? Oh. Oh, that's gauge right there for me. I mean, again, it depended on what you were wanting to get out of it. A lot of it was looking at foods that were intolerances that could be causing issues like headaches or fatigue or muscle aches and joint aches. Allergies can be linked into this. So at this point, we were meeting to talk about how to reintroduce some things. Now, my personal experience, I was going to read some things here. And like I said, I did have some people that decided to do it later, a lot of them that came and learned about it and didn't want to dedicate right now the time to it. And others that had commented on how they felt energy was increased and they had gotten themselves away from a lot of things that they were eating that they knew they shouldn't, so it really helped them with that. So again, whatever you're looking to get out of it. I wanted to increase my energy, and I've had just a lot of digestive issues through my life, and I wanted to figure out what is causing this stuff. I wanted to take things out and then reintroduce them. Now, my challenge was I'm mostly vegetarian. I do eat eggs, and that was a no-no on this. I do eat some organic cheese on my salads, and that was a no-no. So I was finding I was severely restricted because when I was looking through, I thought, all right, I'll supplement some nuts in there. I'll put in an extra protein shake there. I will add in some extra salmon. Well, gosh, there's only so much salmon you can eat. Plus, it's expensive because I buy the wild-caught Alaskan. And I just couldn't find myself to eat that much. So, and also initially when we were looking at this, I thought the one container would last you for the full 21 days, and that was not the case. If you look inside here, it was ramping yourself up and down, so it was pretty much 2 containers. Some people, when I called them after they decided they wanted to do that, other people I said, all you can do if you want otherwise is I had another protein shake already on hand. I said, supplement that in if you want to just cut it in half. You still will be getting a detox from this, regardless. Just like any of the ones we have out there, if you slow it down, which I have had to do, you still will have a benefit. Now, I found that, okay, so I wrote down some notes for myself. On day 3, I was having issues with my bowels had really slowed because I think I was cutting down too much of the regular stuff that I had. So I had a foggy brain. I had to take some extra magnesium and discontinue the cleanse as far as the shake part of it for a few days until I got my bowels going again, because otherwise you just reabsorb those toxins that you're excreting out. And I thought, I'm already kind of off kilter because of everything else. You reabsorb the toxins that you're already trying to excrete out. If your bowels aren't going regularly, daily, if they sit in there for too long, they find that you reabsorb those. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take a few days off as far as the detox part. I still ate the same. And so I got my bowels going again. I didn't like the shake by itself. I don't know how you found it. A lot of people, some were okay, some, yes. Yeah. Yes, because at first when I tried, I thought, not great, not bad, and I thought, I know I'm going to get really sick of this if I have to drink it. Right. Oh. Right. Well, I found I was trying to use some of the recipes that they had in there. I did the berries in the shake with the a fruit juice, I believe it was. Did not like that at all. Typically, I liked it with the almond milk, and then if you put some cherries in there, it was, better. Um, so I thought, maybe I should have done the plain flavor, but I had someone else that did the plain, and they said, you know what, it tastes chalky still. And the other one had a slight orange vanilla flavor, and you couldn't, if you tried to throw stuff into Maskey, you had to put a lot of stuff in there. So it almost seems like starting with the original flavor would have been, or the plain would have been better. But I found I was, by day 5, I was walking around because I have to be out on the floor for a few hours. I was looking at chocolate, and that was one of my big things, was chocolate. And I was craving that, and I craved things like toasted cheese, pizza, because my daughter and I have a gluten-free pizza once a week, a small little Udi's one, and I was missing French toast that I use with the sprouted bread and eggs. So what I eventually did add in, sooner than later, because I was feeling by the end of the first probably 10 days, I thought, I got to add something more in. I just am really, really, really hungry. So I added back in the sprouted toast, which wasn't gluten-free, but it was, I think they say it's technically you don't have gluten in there because it's sprouted. But I added that back in, and I digest that just fine. So I kept that in for myself. I was increasing some what I call warmings instead of hot flashes during this. And now as far as my cycling is kind of all over right now, and I thought, is this from this, the detox, or is it from that, or what? And so I had talked to another counselor, and they had said that happened to them when they were cleansing too. And I thought, well, maybe that's just so. My bowels started moving again. I was feeling great. My energy and digestion was great. I didn't have any bloatiness. I had, again, dropped weight. People were commenting on how great my skin looked, and I said, wow. So my cravings for chocolate and carbs had decreased, and I was eating much less in volume, and I was feeling okay with that. So let's see. Prior to that, I had added in, let's see, on one day, on day 9, I added in a little bit of organic cheese, and I found that I was okay with that. It didn't cause any digestive issues or otherwise. So, but that, I think, was the only time that I had added in. I hadn't had it the rest of the time. So overall, it had helped my chocolate craving that I had that afternoon dark chocolate. I would have little pieces. Now I've had this piece, or this bar in my closet, or cupboard, and it's 88%, and I only took a teeny little piece of it, and I found that I was completely satisfied with that. It didn't have the hold over me anymore. I had the control over that, so it was a great feeling. I had increased my protein drinks, which I had gotten away from, and I find that I'm very good in the morning if I have that protein drink, because otherwise I find I'm hungry and I'm still looking for something else. And the volume of the protein drink was great for me as far as being satisfied. I increased my fruits, my water. I was doing some chlorophyll in water. I was feeling better with just little tastes of things, not having to have a big amount of it. When you pull yourself away and then you add it back in, you find that you only need a little. They say that if you, when you're eating food, after the first bite or two, then you're just consuming. You're not really tasting it anymore. So I found that was something that I was experiencing too. I'm feeling fuller and more satisfied with less food. Let's see. Now on day 13, I was having legumes, and again, how many legumes can you have? How many beans? I was really bloated after I had one of the black bean soup from our cafe. I don't know what it was, but after that, I had had lentil soup throughout, and I was okay with that, but that other just didn't sit well with me. So those were some of the things that I had experienced. So overall, I think it was phenomenal, and I'm going to continue to do some sort of detoxing along the way after this, and I might do a candida cleanse. It's easier to keep yourself on track, I found, if you're one who can get off track during this holiday season, which starts Halloween and then Thanksgiving and then Christmas. So I thought, keep myself on track. I have had sweets in the house, and I haven't been going crazy over them. I'll get some treats for my daughter, and I can have one or two. Though my mother did make some phenomenal gluten-free, tiny little zucchini muffins with a few chocolate chips in them. And I came home one night, and I was so hungry, and I said, well, I'll just have one. And I ended up having 4 of them. They were little, they were short, they were little, but still the thing I found it was a trigger for me. Even though I'm thinking, oh, well, it's healthy, it's gluten-free, it's got zucchini, all that. That still, when I think healthy in my mind, I think, oh, it's okay for you to go overboard on this. And it's not. Growing up, my mom would always make phenomenal stuff, and it was always from scratch. And I find that that's a trigger for me to go back to eat more carbs. And so I said, you know what, that's why I don't have that stuff in my house. Otherwise, I tend to go overboard on that. So I felt that I was going off track again, and I went, oh, rewrite yourself. So I did sooner than later. So. Right. I remember you say, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Did you add a bit? Yes. Oh, good. Good. Right. It does, yes. Good. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. I did do that too. That was. Uh huh. Uh huh. Yeah. Right. Right. Mhm. Right. Right. Not have any. You're right. Mhm. Right. Yeah. Right. 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 See, I had them too, and I just didn't care for them. I was putting almond butter on there, and I thought, this is not cut. Yes, that too. Right. I added those taro chips in that it had said were okay, and those were really satisfying. I had it with when I'd have the lentil soup, and I found, oh, I was that was pretty satisfying. So it was giving me the fats and the crunch and the salt that I was looking for. And I was doing my almond butter with my apple and getting back onto the stuff that I had been doing more strictly regimented and felt better. Mhm. Great. Mhm. Right. 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 You doing okay with all that? Mhm. Stuff that's in. Right. Mhm. Second. Mhm. 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 If you know, yeah, triggers already, yes, you can do that. Mhm. Exactly. Because that was the main thing, like when they're looking through, which was at this point of starting to slowly reintroduce the food, which they go through the list of. I didn't have too many that needed to be reintroduced. There's dairy, which again I had tried some mozzarella cheese, and no, again my factor was looking at bloating and gassiness, and I was fine. Wheat and gluten, I had a little piece of just a small piece of wheat pizza because I didn't have a gluten-free one on hand, and it was organic wheat and I was fine after that. It didn't do anything. And there were some tomatoes, so there you go. It was all right there. And tomatoes I didn't think were an issue for me anyway. Corn, I don't usually have coffee. I don't have soy, shellfish, peanuts. I don't have eggs. I have reintroduced. And what I was doing prior was I used to have eggs daily for some protein, but now I'm having them once in a while, and I'm perfectly fine after that. I found that one day I had four pieces, I think, of the sprouted bread, and oh my gosh, I think that's what it was that threw me right over the edge. My stomach, I had to stop it again because I had a Sunday, a Monday, and a Tuesday. I was just down for the count as far as my stomach and bowels and everything. So it's interesting. No, it was diarrhea. It was like I can't go anywhere because I felt like it was just gonna at any moment. Yeah, and I don't know if it was the extra fiber because I don't normally have that many. So I don't know what that was. I couldn't quite figure it out, but I didn't have anything else out of the norm. Yeah, I would. And this says to take it, one at a time, give yourself a few days. Again, generally I didn't have too much to reintroduce as far as on this list here. So, I don't really eat that. I've backed off from the cheese. I have it again. Have I had any today? No. So, and I had eggs the other night, and that was the first time in quite a while with some pesto on top and no cheese. So I was fine with that. I find that when I have more grains, regardless of them being gluten free, personally, I can have digestive upset. I mean, really bad gassiness and bloating. The what? The sprouted. I think on the outside, it has the outside. Mm. Yes, this is a sprouted one, not the Ezekiel. It's one in the same area there. I think it's called seven, whatever. Right, right. Just play around with it. Mhm. I think just keeping it little, adding it little in, and then separate it out, and because I found a lot of people didn't do this as strict, but they still got benefits from it, and which is phenomenal. Like I saw 2, 3 people throughout in the store that talked to me and said, "I'm doing the cleanse and it's going great. I'm not following it 100%, but it's just already made me feel great with energy, and I've lost some weight, and so it's just varied." Mhm. Exactly. Right. Well, since you know now, you can just ask for it, but people don't typically know that we have that back there at all. There is a no, no. There's a supply. Needs and Nature-Tyme both have the stock. So yes, exactly. Typically, people out on the floor wouldn't say, "Oh, we've got this." That's one that we've been trained with all the practitioner lines, and so that's why I did this one, thinking it was great to have you look at what foods might be triggers, because a lot of times when you do these cleanses out here, they will say in the kit, some of them it'll say, well, try to eat as clean as possible, but they won't say try to have gluten-free and stay away from the corn and this and that. So I didn't ever have this much of a benefit response from how I felt as I have on other ones, just because I think it's the added looking at your food piece, which could cause different issues in the body. I have had this benefit when I've done a Candida cleanse, which I'm going to continue and after this to do. I haven't done one of those in a long time. But there again, on that one, you really have to follow stricter food guidelines too. So that's another one that you can always piggyback. Well, again, there's the regular. I think it's in the front. If you don't want a flavor and you want to doctor it up yourself, that would be the Mediclear Plus, which runs about $57, and the one that's just the Mediclear is about $55, just like a $2 difference. But I think next time around I would go with the unflavored so I could add stuff in, because I found it was harder to cover that slight orange flavor. It wasn't, and that was just my personal thing, because typically when I do shakes, I just want to be able to grab and go. I don't want to have to sit there and deal with all this blending of all the things. I found it was better not with water or with the fruit juices, with the almond milk. I like the unsweetened vanilla almond milk for sure. But I crossed off some of the plus, the Mediclear Plus. It's where the check mark, it says no sweeteners. Yep. Mhm. But yeah, I tried the very berry shake and I didn't like it. I tried the tart and tasty with the pomegranate and the raspberries and the pear juice. Did not like that. And I love pear and pomegranate. So again, to each his own though. Some people I was finding when I was talking to them were just having it as is. A lot of people were blending, and like I said, one woman had suggested the cherries, so I added that, and I like cherries, and that did help for sure. So, but for you, Liz, I can go over it again more so if you want to sometime. Yes, you can take that and look through it. Sure. Mhm. Yes. Yes. You have to be careful with, again, depending on what your diet was prior as well, and what you're having to cut out. Again, dairy and wheat usually cause constipation, but I wasn't really having too much of that stuff anyway. I think it was just the shifting maybe of the fiber content, I don't know, but I tend to have that issue myself as well. So I had to be very careful, and like I said, I had to back off of it one time because I went down. The other time I went up, so I didn't know what was hitting me, and the bloating. And I had hummus at one point too, and some carrots. I had an apple with some almond butter, and then I had some hummus with carrots. And that night, the bloating was awful, and I thought, okay, nothing else was different except I added in, and I had cucumbers. So I'm wondering maybe because cucumbers can be gassy, and it might have been the yes. Yep. And so I'm wondering maybe it was that because I've had hummus and carrots yesterday, and I was perfectly fine with that. No gassy. So it might have been the cucumbers. But I've had cucumbers, I don't know. It's like combinations. Yeah. And we have something like that called, I think it's called gastro. It's for people that eat more of a raw vegetarian diet and beans and whatnot. So I believe it's called gastro. And it's like your Beano. Mhm. Oh. Uh, yeah. The enzymes. Okay. Mm. Yeah, that just I don't know if that's supposed to actually help with decreasing gas. 'Cause I know for babies you give it to babies. Mhm. I don't think so. I'm trying to think of there's a baby formula that has fennel. Fennel is also a natural breaking up of gas reliever. Mhm. They have fennel. It was fennel, ginger, baking soda, sodium bicarbonate in there, and chamomile is in the little baby drops. So I use that instead of that. So you can look at fennel is supposed to, if you like fennel tea or fennel capsules or something like that to break it up. Oh yeah. It'll bind up, yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Right. I would use it for food poisoning or something like that, right? Yeah. To quickly absorb it, but on a regular basis, no. So, yeah, beans I found, like I said, I had the Amy's lentil soup because some people were asking about some easier grab and go stuff, and that's one of the ones that I use. And that one I was fine with, but like I said, after I had our black bean, I don't know what was in it, or if it was the black beans being different, I don't know. But I was like you. I thought, oh my, this is not good. So, kombucha? Kombucha? Mm. Oh, yes, okay. Oh, yeah. Mhm. Oh. Food bar. Yeah. Mhm. I can only imagine. Right. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. That's good to know, though, for for cooking. I flipped and watched her show one time. Ah, that's good to know. Hmm. I use a variety of 3 different ones: the Vega or the Lifetime Plant Basics, the vanilla one, or the Raw Garden of Life, the vanilla chai, or the spice chai. Yeah, vanilla chai, I think is what it is. So I would use whatever one of those that I had on hand. Right now I've been using more of the Lifetime Plant Basics. It has the chia and rice and pea and hemp, I think, in there. Mhm. And arsenic. Wow. Rice naturally pulls arsenic, cadmium, and lead. Yeah, it pulls heavy metals. Um, mm, mhm. Mhm. Yes, the thing is the Consumer Reports too. They've flagged one of the practitioner lines in theirs that was a rice one being high in, I think it was lead they were testing at the time, but they also were doubling up the serving size, and they didn't have the correct testing procedures that this other company used on their products. So it was skewing it, making it look like it was bad. So, and they had their assays, and they sent them in and showed them that it didn't have all. So you kind of have to walk through some of these, unfortunately, because we don't, on the consumer end, know all this stuff. Now, I get that information because it comes straight in from the companies when they get, dinged on something. But yes, that's something that, again, a client, too, that was eating a lot of rice because she was celiac, and she brought it to my attention, I don't know how many years ago now. We've been here 2 years, at least 3 or more years ago, that there was something on NBC that the rice was pulling a lot of the arsenic, and it was higher in baby foods because they'll use rice syrup solids or whatnot, than even tap water. So she said, I was doing rice this and rice that and rice, and so that's why it's better to vary up all of your grains. Like I'll use quinoa, and I don't do a ton of grains, but I'll do that sprouted bread. If I do anything too, it'd be rice, but I really don't eat much rice anymore. So, mhm. Yeah. Right, yes. And like I said, and if it was a lot less fiber, then you need to slowly ramp that stuff back in and be very aware. Like don't do any beans when you're adding in some more fiber from your sprouted bread or right, no. Start with one, see how you do for a day or two, and then ramp it up from there. Yeah, and then you'll see, and maybe you won't even like it anymore or tolerate it well with 4. Just have to see. I found that I really have had to. I had gone astray. I wasn't eating terrible by any means, but I wasn't eating more optimal, and I could see that. I was eating a lot more of carbohydrates, and my stomach and intestines were upset a lot, and I couldn't figure out exactly what was doing it. So I did feel, like I said, great. I was hungry a lot, but I felt great. And then losing the weight too was really helpful. So I hope to continue to go because I have a certain goal in mind for that. But all around, I just thought it was great, and just be very, very slow at adding, slow and single. Don't do multiple things as I did. Like I said, I had cheese one day, and I was okay with that one time. But it's also, too, if you get into that where you're doing cheese every day, maybe cheese is okay once every 4 days, like the rotation diet for people that have allergies. They can tolerate it, but not again for another 4 days or so. Having it all the time throughout the day, not so good. So it got me away from that and opening up other doors again of stuff that I got away from, like my almond butter with apple. I love that. I'm very satisfied with that. But there again, I was getting sick of, because I didn't have meat as an option, I was getting really sick of nuts and nut butters. And I could feel that heaviness from the nuts and the oils. Right. Oh. Mm. Mm. Mhm. Mhm. Well, the fat helps with, honestly, what I read a recent study about organic milk, and they found that the benefit came from the fat. The anti-inflammatory benefit came from the fat. It said if you go lower than 2%, which is kind of why I switched back to getting 2% for my daughter, because she would use, I don't drink milk anymore, but she sometimes will have some, so I switched her back to organic 2%. Now the D is a fat-soluble vitamin, so the fat will help out with that absorption. Not so much with the calcium, it's more the D and the calcium together. Yes. Mhm. Mhm. Yep. Yep. Benefit of the. Mhm. But it actually is, it's a good fat, right? But I don't really worry about things like that when I'm looking at coconut, because I use a lot of coconut to cook with, and on my spreaded toast I put coconut oil, and I know what you're saying about that, but they're better saturated versus non. Again, if you're eating a saturated fat from a cow that was non-organic, that were fed GMOs, same as they found as the meat, when they compared an animal that was free range, feeding off the grass, I don't remember how many ounces it was, but it was saturated fat at like 1.5 grams, whereas when they looked at a same amount in a conventional cow that ate all the grains, it was 9.5 grams of saturated fat. When they're grass-fed, it's very no, that was of the meat of the cow, right? But even it would still carry through with the dairy aspect of it, because the animals that are grazing on the grass, they have more CLA in their meat or in their dairy, which is fat burning. So it's more of a, actually it helps maintain more muscle mass and decrease the fat, adding more fat. So like we have the CLA product out there. They found that because of the fact that they were grazing on the grass, I don't know if it was from the grass and their body and how it was metabolized, but it was much better, much leaner. So, and as they say on the yogurts, like, I know my dad used to get so upset when I would go over to the bulk tank and get our milk out, and I would push that cream away because I could not stand it. It was just so thick when I drank my milk. And now I hear this whole thing about how that was such a benefit. And when I have any of the yogurts, if I occasionally do, ones with the cream on it, oh my gosh, just versus the ones that don't. Oh yeah, you can actually, the layer is there and you eat it and it's just fabulous. It's so good. And think about the countries that used to have, they would have the eggs and they would have the meat and they would have, again, they were though grazing on all the the land, they were not given tons and tons of grains, which are inflammatory, which grass is anti-inflammatory. The greens are anti-inflammatory, higher in omega-3s, whereas the others are very inflammatory. So their products are going to be the same. Same thing with eggs. That's why I give my chickens, I feed them organic feed. They get the grass, they get organic sunflower seeds and flax seeds, and so, so they'll have the good fats in the eggs when I eat them. So I don't really worry too much about that part of it. Again, if you look at coconut, that's got a lot of saturate. See, well, yeah, there's all different kinds of, when you look at it, there's a lot of different saturate fats. When I was looking at dark chocolate, it's got saturated fats, but there are different kinds, and it's got the beneficial saturated fats. See, so. Oh, yeah, the tides are always changing daily. So, but even if go to 1%, I mean, that would be a little bit more of a benefit if you want to, just to get a little more fat in there. So, you're welcome. I wish we could have had more feedback, but like I said, I know it's a gorgeous day, so I'm sure people are out there because we don't. Yes. Yep. I do have some people for tonight, so we'll see how that goes. No. Yep. It's right. Yeah. It is. I agree. I think it's phenomenal. And I'm so surprised still to this day that people that have shopped here for years, Carol had one client that had shopped here for years at the old store and also the one over at Solvay, and hadn't known for 10 years that there was a free service that we offered of that. And so since then, we're always putting it out there and trying to let people know and put it in the newsletters and that you can come, and it's just not a one-time service. So, you're welcome.